That's dismissed.
I'd also ask to incorporate our indictment into the opening statement and ask for separation of witnesses.
Both those are granted.
Thank you. In this case, you will hear that on December 14, 2022, in Willoughby, Lake County, state of Ohio, the defendant was in unlawful possession of a firearm. On this date, Officer Mame with the Willoughby Police Department was working routine road patrol when he initiated a traffic stop on a vehicle that had ran a red light. Later, he learned that the defendant was the driver and sole occupant of this vehicle. Upon approaching the vehicle, Officer Mame made contact with the defendant, who was immediately uncooperative. The defendant, when asked, refused to provide his name to the officer. Growing suspicious, Officer Mame asked the defendant to exit the vehicle. Upon exiting the vehicle, Officer Mame continued to ask the defendant to provide his name and date of birth. The defendant eventually provided a name of Jeffrey Hobbs. The defendant's name is Kenneth. Officer Mame continued to try and get the defendant to tell him a date of birth, asking him over 10 times, to which the defendant refused to provide a date of birth as well. Due to the defendant's lies and uncooperativeness, Officer Mame made the decision to arrest the defendant. The defendant was then put in the back of Officer Mame's cruiser, and Officer Mame and Patrolman DeSanto conducted an inventory of the defendant's vehicle. While conducting this inventory search prior to the vehicle being towed,
what you're hearing right now is a crucial moment. The judge is laying out what's known as a final plea date. In plain English, this is the defendant's last chance to back out before everything becomes legally binding. Once he says yes here, there's no turning back unless something major goes wrong. The stakes? Enormous.
Officers located inside what the state will refer to as a satchel. It was a small, brown crossbody bag that was located on the rear passenger side floorboard. Inside this satchel was the defendant's wallet containing his Ohio driver's license with his photo, and also a loaded firearm. The court will hear that the defendant was under disability from a Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas case for possession of drugs, a felony, and therefore was not able to be in lawful possession of the firearm. At the conclusion of the state's case, we will have proved each and every element beyond a reasonable doubt and ask that you return a verdict of guilty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Opening statement, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, close enough isn't good enough. Now, Ms. Alessi, she just told you a lot of facts about what happened on that day, and for the most part, we don't disagree. There was a traffic stop. Mr. Hobbs was detained. His vehicle was searched. A gun was recovered. But where we disagree with the state is the idea that just because a gun was found in some proximity somewhere in the vehicle, that it automatically means that it belonged to Mr. Hobbs or that he knew it was there. Because here in the state of Ohio, close enough, it isn't good enough. Because when the state chooses to charge a person with a crime, they take on a burden of proof. They've got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt every element of every charge they've accused him of. Now, we as the defense, as Your Honor knows, we don't have a burden. We don't have to call any witnesses. We don't have to present any evidence. And until they prove otherwise, Mr. Hobbs is presumed innocent. So today we ask that you just focus on the facts, listen to all the evidence, and don't fill in any of the gaps in the state's story unless they actually prove it. Your Honor, we ask that you hold them to their burden. And at the end of trial, we'll ask that you find Mr. Hobbs not guilty.
Notice how calmly he's answering, "Yes, ma'am," to every charge. That's not confidence. That's routine. Defendants who've been through the system multiple times often sound numb. It's not defiance. It's exhaustion. And we're about to see how deep his record goes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you ready with your first witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
The state would call Patrolman Jonathan Mame.
Will you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, have a seat.
please state your full name and spell your last name?
Yes, it's Jonathan Mame, M-E-H-M,
And where are you currently employed?
City of Willoughby,
How long have you been with the City of Willoughby?
9 months.
And in what capacity?
I'm a patrol officer.
And it's safe to say you're a member of the Willoughby Police Department?
Yes.
And before joining the Willoughby Police Department, did you work with any other police departments?
Yes, I work for the City of Brook Park Police Department.
And for how long?
I was there for approximately 3 years.
What training did you take to become a police officer?
Yeah, so I attended Lorain County Community College Police Academy. I graduated from there, passed the certification test to become a police officer there.
Are you a certified peace officer in the state of Ohio?
Yes, I am.
And what are your duties?
As a patrol officer, I respond to calls for service. I enforce traffic violation, traffic code for the state of Ohio, and then conduct proactive policing within the community.
Do you have any special training in regards to traffic stops?
Yes, so I'm a state certified traffic stop instructor through the Ohio Peace Officer Training Academy. So basically what that means is I'm certified to teach traffic stops at the police academy.
Safe to say you conducted traffic stops in your
Yes.
employment?
Yes.
How many would you say?
I mean, a minimum of 1,000. I don't have an exact count, but a lot.
Turning your attention to December 14th, 2022, were you on duty that day?
Yes, I was.
What was your role during that shift?
So I was in field training. Had just been with the City of Willoughby for approximately 2 months. I was in the final week of my field training process.
Can you explain what field training is?
Yeah, so starting with the City of Willoughby, they put you through a 9-week field training program for somebody who comes with prior experience to the city as a law enforcement officer. So in that period, it's basically learning how to be a policeman in Willoughby. Just learning how Willoughby handles all different types of situations, learning the city. Coming with prior experience, it's not necessarily learning how to be a policeman, but learning how Willoughby kind of handles their business.
And was another officer with you that day?
Yes, Patrolman Cole was with me.
And that's as part of the field training process?
Correct.
What were you driving that day?
I was driving a marked police unit. Can't recall the exact number of the police unit off the top of my head, but we were in basically a 2-man marked police unit.
And was it equipped with the rotating and oscillating light?
Yes, it was.
And what were you wearing?
Marked police uniform, what you see right here.
But it was December, so maybe...
Long sleeves, yep.
While you were on duty, did you have occasion to come into contact with Kenneth Hobbs?
Yes, I did.
How did that come to be?
I was on patrol on Euclid Avenue. I was driving westbound on Euclid Avenue. We're near Wilson Avenue.
And is that in Willoughby, Lake County, Ohio?
Yes, it is. As I was traveling westbound on Euclid Avenue near Wilson Avenue, I observed a silver Mercedes SUV in front of me. So we approached the light at Wilson Avenue on Euclid Avenue going westbound. The silver Mercedes that was in front of me ran the red light at that intersection. Approximately, I would say he had about 2 car lengths, 20-ish feet to stop the vehicle safely at the light, and continued through the light running that, violating Ohio Revised Code.
So you initiated a traffic stop?
Yes, I did.
And did you make contact with the driver?
Yes, I did.
And what was the driver's demeanor when you approached the vehicle?
Argumentative immediately, uncooperative, just not happy to be in contact with me.
Were you eventually able to identify the driver?
After a long process, yes.
And what was his name?
Kenneth Hobbs.
And do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Can you point him and describe his clothing?
Yep, white shirt, glasses, sit at the table over here.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witness has positively identified the defendant?
Yes.
So back to his demeanor, can you describe a little bit more how he was uncooperative and argumentative?
Yeah, I approached the vehicle, explained the reason for my stop, that I was stopping the vehicle for running the red light. He immediately stated that he didn't run the red light. I asked him for his identification, to which he said that he didn't have to provide me with identification because he didn't commit a crime. He then started to make comments around that he was not driving, that he's just traveling, and then continued to, after I asked for several minutes to provide me with his identification, he continued to refuse.
Do Willoughby police officers, are your uniforms equipped with body cams?
No.
Are your patrol cars equipped with dash camera?
Yes.
How do dash cameras work?
Dash cameras, when you basically they can be activated manually, so by pressing a button on on the unit within the vehicle, or when you initiate your overhead lights, the dash camera will automatically kick on and then go back 30 seconds prior.
Okay. And it has sound.
Correct. We wear a body mic on our person, and then there's also sound, the microphone basically within the cabin of the vehicle, so you'll hear what's being said in the vehicle.
And was the car you were driving that day, was it equipped with dash camera?
Yes, it was.
And the dash camera was working properly?
Yes, it was.
Would you recognize video from your dash cam if you saw it in court today?
Yes, I would.
Your Honor, can I approach? Do you recognize it?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
Those are my initials on the disc, and we have watched this video.
And what is this video?
This is a video of the actual traffic stop itself from my dash cam and my police cruiser.
Thank you.
What number is that?
1. Oh, Your Honor, the state would move to admit and publish State's Exhibit 1.
Any objection to Exhibit 1?
No, Your Honor.
All right, it's admitted.
So we don't hear sound right now. Why is that?
Correct. So the sound does not begin until, I believe, the 30 seconds is up. And then you will see when I conducted the traffic stop, I was not wearing my body mic initially. Once Mr. Hobbs became uncooperative, I motioned to Patrolman Cole to retrieve the body mic because I figured that this was not going to just be a simple traffic citation.
And can you describe what we're seeing here?
Yeah, we're westbound on Euclid Avenue, just got out of downtown Willoughby, for those familiar. In front of me is the silver Mercedes SUV. I believe the plate was JOE 1350. And you're basically about to see where the traffic violation occurs. We're approaching Wilson Avenue, westbound on Euclid Ave. Through the light, I activated my overhead lights.
'Cause we just saw the traffic violation.
Correct. Jordan.
6:46. So what was happening here?
Patrolman LaCourcy arrived on scene along with I think another Willoughby patrol officer. Patrolman LaCourcy attempts to kind of intervene to try to de-escalate the situation with Mr. Hobbs and try to see if she can get him to provide us with his personal information.
And right before she arrived in this encounter, what were you asking him?
For his date of birth.
And was he providing that to you?
No.
What's in your hand?
That is the satchel bag with the firearm and his wallet inside.
So after the inventory search of the vehicle, what did you do?
I returned to the station with Mr. Hobbs, where we began the booking process and ran a computerized criminal history on Mr. Hobbs.
Was the defendant brought to the booking room at the Willoughby Police Department?
Yes, he was.
And is the booking room equipped with cameras?
Yes, it is.
I'm showing you what's been marked State Exhibit 2.
That's me.
Do you know what this is?
Yes, this is our booking room.
Is this a fair and accurate description
Yes.
or depiction? So is that a screenshot of the booking video?
Correct.
Your Honor, the state would move to admit and publish State's Exhibit 2.
Any objection to 2?
No, Your Honor.
That's admitted.
So who are the individuals we see in this photograph?
Mr. Hobbs is seated on the bench, and I am seated at the computer, and I cannot tell who the other officer is that half his body is cut off there.
And then what's sitting on the desk?
The satchel bag is on the desk that we recovered from the vehicle.
So approximately, and how big is that bag?
Say approximately 1 foot tall and maybe about 8 inches wide.
And it has one main compartment,
Yep, one.
and the gun was found in that main compartment.
Yes.
And what?
43 prior arrests. Let that sink in. 43. And yet he's still only 36. Imagine living a life where the courtroom feels more familiar than your own home. What do you think? Is that the system failing him or him failing the system?
Where was the wallet?
Right next to the gun.
What was done with that satchel?
It was placed into his property. We seized the firearm, and then placed the satchel back into his property along with his wallet.
So the satchel and wallet went back to him?
They were returned to him, yes.
What is the procedure for evidence collection?
So with the firearm, we will clear the firearm, render it safe, so it's unable to be accidentally fired in the station or while we're processing the evidence. It's placed into a firearm box. The pertinent information from that firearm is we receive a serial number off of it. We get information, we fill out the box that the firearm goes into, and then we also fill out a lab sheet for the Lake County Crime Lab where we include all of the information from that firearm and requesting for them basically to conduct a test fire on that firearm to determine its operability.
And were those procedures followed in this case?
Yes, they were.
Doing it with the mark Exhibit 3, do you recognize it?
Yep, that is the box from that.
You open it up. Is the firearm in substantially similar condition to when it was collected?
Yes.
And what else is inside of State's Exhibit 3?
A small holster, which the firearm was located in, and I believe in here is going to be the magazine with the rounds that were in the firearm.
Was the gun taken to Lake County Crime Lab?
It was.
Then why was it taken to the crime lab?
The Lake County Crime Lab determines the operability of the firearm, so in order to determine whether the firearm is able to be fired.
Was it submitted for fingerprints or DNA?
I do not recall whether they have what they completed there besides the operability of the firearm.
Your Honor, the state would move to admit State's Exhibit 3.
Objection of 3.
Is that this one?
No,
Oh, sorry.
the
No, it's the gun.
The firearm.
Oh, no, I have no objection.
All right, it's admitted.
So as part of the booking process, do you review a defendant's criminal history?
Correct.
And as it pertains to possession of firearms, why is it necessary to review a defendant's criminal history?
To determine whether they are legally allowed to possess a firearm in the state of Ohio.
In this case, did you review the defendant's criminal history?
Yes, I did.
And did Mr. Hobbs have a prior conviction that made him ineligible to have a firearm?
Yes, he did.
Did you ever interview the defendant?
So I did not necessarily interview the defendant. I mean, I asked him some personal information in the jail that we fill out in our booking process that's standard and routine for all persons arrested. But I did not ask him any specific questions about the firearm, no.
Why not?
Due to his uncooperative nature,
This is one of those moments that hits hard. He's not talking like a criminal. He's talking like a broken father. You can hear the pain in his voice when he mentions missing his son's death while behind bars. For many defendants, it's tragedy, not punishment, that finally brings clarity.
believed that it was only going to escalate things further and wanted to avoid any sort of future altercation at that point. It just felt like it wasn't going to go well. So.
Thanks. No further questions, thank you.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning, officer.
Good morning.
So, sorry, I have a lot to go through. So when you originally, took Mr. Hobbs out of the vehicle, and there was, the yelling in the video, most of that yelling was all surrounding the issue of the dog. He wanted someone to come get his dog.
Yeah,
And you called someone for him, asking them to come get the dog.
correct.
And when you did that, you said that you have a Jeffrey Hobbs here. Do you know who that is? And the woman said yes, right?
I believe so. I don't recall what the female said on the phone. But she did agree to come get the dog.
Okay, she knew who you were talking about and what dog you were talking about?
She seemed to, yeah.
Okay. And then with the vehicle, you can't see the full vehicle from behind, obviously, from the dash cam, but from your interaction with the vehicle, it looks like it's a van.
The vehicle I stopped?
Yes.
It's an SUV. Yeah,
SUV?
yeah, Mercedes
So-
SUV.
So is that 2 rows of seating or 3?
I believe it was 2. I didn't do the inventory on the vehicle, so I didn't really, it's not like I entered the vehicle, but I believe it was 2.
Okay, so when you were shown the satchel in the vehicle, were you shown where it was when it was found, or had it already been moved?
It had been picked up.
It had been
removed,
picked up?
so it was handed to me. Patrolman DeSanto is the one who recovered it. Obviously, he opened the satchel and saw a firearm, which is why he motioned for me to come over. So he did not then put it back where he found it.
Okay.
He handed it
Are
to me.
you aware where it came from in the vehicle?
In the vehicle, I believe from what I was told that it was under, like, near the passenger seat area, under, like, on the floorboard.
Okay, I thought you had said that it was near the rear.
Yeah, on the floorboard, passenger side, near the rear.
Okay, so do you mean the rear of the vehicle or the seat in the near the door where you were kind of standing next to?
I specifically, Patrolman, you have to ask Patrolman DeSanto that specifically
Okay.
where he viewed it, but it's
Okay.
on it was on, from what I was advised of, it was on the floorboard, on the passenger side, closer to the rear.
Okay, so when you got the bag, it was not in the area that it was found?
I was handed the bag.
Okay, and then when that bag was found, there was no photos taken of where it was found, correct?
That is correct.
And presumably that's why we saw the picture of the bag there. There was no photos of the bag at the scene, right?
That is correct.
And there was no pictures of the firearm at the scene?
That is correct.
And no pictures of the wallet was taken at the scene?
That is correct.
And no pictures of the driver's license was taken at the scene?
That is correct.
Okay. And the vehicle itself was registered to his mother, right?
Yeah, I found that out later.
Okay. And when you find a firearm in a vehicle and you're taking that into property, you called the dispatch to give them the number on it, right?
On the firearm?
Yes.
Yes.
And that was sent out and returned back to a woman by the name of Jamila Wilson?
So when I called the serial number for the firearm in to dispatch, I was not provided with any information other than that the firearm was not stolen. When we call firearms into our dispatch, all they do is run that firearm through leads, which will return whether the firearm is entered stolen or not. That is
Okay,
it.
so you weren't informed whether or not it was registered to Mr. Hobbs at that time?
Did not know who owned the gun, who purchased the gun. I did not.
At any point during the investigation after the fact, did you get that report back from the firearm?
Not prior to an arrest, no.
Right, I mean, even after the arrest?
I believe at some point an ATF trace report was completed on that, and I did receive that information, but I don't recall when.
Okay, but you did then eventually see that report and saw that it was not registered to Mr. Hobbs?
Firearms are not registered in the state of Ohio.
Or it was not purchased by Mr. Hobbs?
That is correct. So,
Okay.
but plenty of people carry firearms who did not buy them.
But that gun was not purchased by Mr. Hobbs and it was not stolen?
It was not purchased by Mr. Hobbs, and it was not a stolen firearm.
Okay. And...
Not an entered stolen firearm.
Okay, and you said you send it to the crime lab to have it tested for operability. Do you make that referral over to them, or who handles that?
I fill out the paperwork
You
to
fill out
have.
the paperwork?
Yeah, I fill out the paperwork to have that completed, as we do with any firearm that is taken in a weapons-related offense. And then that is the actual process of the firearm being taken there, and all those different pieces when it comes to the chain of custody of that firearm is completed by our evidence
Okay, so
worker.
that's the Lake County Crime Laboratory evidence submission form that you fill out?
Yes.
Okay, and so on there's a bunch of different items you can check as to what type of testing you want done, and you had the firearm analysis check marked for it to be tested, correct?
I believe so. I'd have to see it, but I believe so.
Okay. And when you make that request to the crime lab, you could have also requested...
The judge goes with 10 years, serve 3. It's harsher than the defense wanted, but softer than the prosecution asked for. a classic courtroom compromise. But here's the kicker. The judge doesn't just punish him, he tries to rehabilitate him. GD, treatment structure. Because in this courtroom, it's not just about the time you serve, it's about whether you ever make it out better than you came in.
That fingerprints or DNA swabs could have been done as well, correct?
I believe so. I'd have to see the form specifically. I don't know if that's
Okay.
a separate checkbox or whatever it may be.
Have you ever made any requests to the crime lab to test for test for fingerprints or for DNA?
Every firearm that I recover, I check the same box every single time. So
Not necessarily on a firearm, just any type of evidence in any type of case.
Sure, yeah.
So those types of things are tested by the Lake County Crime Lab.
Of course.
But to your knowledge, those things were not requested in this case.
I don't believe so. I don't recall ever receiving any sort of correspondence saying that, but I said, I don't recall specifically.
Okay, and you say that you did not discuss the gun with Mr. Hobbs after it was found.
I don't believe
There was no discussion about the vehicle either, as to how long he had been driving the vehicle.
not that I recall. I mean,
Okay.
not any sort of formal questioning or interview.
And there was no discussion as to whether other people were driving the vehicle as well? There was no discussion as to whether someone else had been driving the vehicle earlier that day?
You gotta give a verbal response.
No, sorry.
And there was no discussion as to how that firearm came to be in the vehicle? Okay. And you're the one that transported him to the jail, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And during that time, you gave him his Miranda advisement?
I believe at some point, yes.
Okay, but then you didn't initiate any questioning about the firearm?
No formal interview was conducted, no.
Okay. And then what is the system that you use? If he would have given you his name right off the bat when you came up to the window, what would you have ran that on?
I would either ran it on my mobile data terminal in my vehicle or provided that information to our dispatch via radio. But
Okay.
it all goes through leads.
Okay. And does leads show aliases for different individuals?
Well,
If you were to put a name that is not necessarily that person's name?
so if I were to put in just Jeffrey Hobbs into just under name,
Mm-hmm.
I would have probably gotten a return of I don't know how many. So
Okay.
specifically, we typically, if someone does not say have their driver's license on their person,
Right, so I'm just gonna narrow this down to the question, so if you put in a name,
Mhm.
it just comes up with all related results for that name,
correct.
correct? And then it gives you a list of what their birth dates are and all the other personal identifying information with each of those names?
Yeah.
Did you ever search the name Jeffrey Hobbs?
No.
When it was given to you? Okay. I have no further questions, thank you.
Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Would reviewing the evidence submission form refresh your recollection?
Sure.
So did you submit it for either fingerprint or DNA analysis?
I submitted just a firearms analysis, which I believe just includes the operability of that firearm.
Do you know why you didn't submit it for DNA or fingerprint?
It's not typically what we do.
And where was the gun found?
In the satchel on the floorboard of the vehicle on the passenger side,
And what else was in the satchel?
his wallet with his Ohio driver's license.
Nothing further.
Any recross?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, Nikki, you may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Prior to publishing and admitting that exhibit at trial, just to explain the lack of audio at those
Okay.
portions.
All right.
And the state calls Patrolman Dominic DeSanto.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you please state your name and spell it for the record?
Dominic DeSanto, DISANTO.
Where are you employed?
Willoughby Police Department.
What position?
As a patrolman.
You're a certified peace officer in the state of Ohio?
I am.
How long have you been a patrolman with the city of Willoughby?
Since January of last year.
Did you work anywhere prior?
I did.
Where?
I worked at Bainbridge Township
How long did you work for Bainbridge Township?
for almost 7 years.
Did you work there as a patrolman as well?
Correct.
What type of training or education did you receive that enables you to hold this position?
I am a certified peace officer, went through the Academy at Tri-C. I have a master's degree in criminology through Ohio University and continuing education through the state.
When did you graduate from the police academy?
2015.
You've been a certified police officer since 2015.
Correct.
I want to direct your attention to December 14th of 2022. Were you employed with Willoughby Police Department at that time?
That is correct.
Were you on duty that day?
That is correct.
Were you wearing a uniform similar to that you're wearing here in court?
That is correct.
Did it clearly identify you as a police officer?
Yes.
Were you driving a vehicle that day?
That is correct.
What type of vehicle were you driving?
It was my marked police cruiser at the time.
Marked stating Willoughby Police Officer.
Correct.
Are there rotating and oscillating lights on top of that vehicle?
Yes.
What was your assignment that day?
I was doing patrol in Zone 3, which is the west side of our city, so like 91 and Euclid Avenue area.
And did you have occasion to respond to a traffic stop involving a tenant house?
Yes.
How did you come to be involved in that traffic stop?
Patrolman Mems was on a traffic stop and asked for assistance because I guess at the time the subject wasn't being compliant with him, identifying himself and getting him out of the car. So he asked for assistance.
Did you respond to where Patrolman name was?
Yes.
Where exactly was he located?
On Euclid Avenue near Jordan.
And that's in Willoughby, Lake County, state of Ohio?
Correct.
When you arrived on scene, what did you observe?
I observed Patrolman Mems and his FTO officer, Patrolman Cole, outside the vehicle with...
When you say FTO, I'm sorry, what do you mean?
I'm sorry, his field training officer, because he was a newer hire at Willoughby at the time.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And the defendant outside the vehicle talking. And I believe at the time another officer also pulled up the scene at the same time I did.
What did you do once you arrived on scene?
I exited my vehicle and I just stood outside the perimeter while the officers talked to the defendant.
Did you engage or ask any questions of the defendant?
Not at the time, no. That I recall.
Eventually, while you were on scene, was the defendant taken into custody?
Correct.
And were you given a task at that point?
Not told directly, but as assisting officers, I know that what the next steps would be if the subject is being arrested. Usually the car is getting towed or searched depending on the situation.
Was the car being towed in this case?
Correct.
What is the department's policy for when a car is going to get towed?
The department's policy is to inventory the vehicle prior to tow, to note any significant property or damage to the car.
Was an inventory search conducted in this case?
Correct.
Have you received any training or experience as it pertains to conducting searches?
Correct.
What
Yes.
type of training?
From the academy, just how to properly search a car, as in compartmentalization, and also continuing education with search and seizures.
Why is it important to compartmentalize when you're searching?
So nothing is missed in particular. So, any contraband, as in weapons, drugs, anything of significance that might be noted in the inventory.
Do you wear gloves when searching vehicles?
Yes, for the most part.
Did you conduct a search of this vehicle?
Yes.
If you could just briefly describe for us what type of vehicle this was.
It was a older model silver Mercedes SUV.
Do you recall how many rows were in the vehicle?
Like the front passenger, like the front compartment with a driver's seat, passenger seat, and then the back seat was a bench seat.
How would you describe the state of the vehicle? Was it clean, dirty?
The vehicle was relatively clean inside, yes.
Were there multiple items inside the vehicle?
There was a satchel I located and with items inside and a dog that was in the front seat.
Tell me about this satchel.
During the search, I couldn't get the full search of the vehicle right away until we were able to remove the dog safely so we wouldn't get bit or the dog would run away. And once the dog was removed, I searched the vehicle and in the back passenger floorboard, I located a satchel. I would assume you call it a satchel. It's a small purse in a sense. And inside that purse, I located a firearm and an identification card belonging to the defendant.
Where specifically in the vehicle was the satchel located?
In the rear passenger floorboard, right in the passenger seat.
Would that satchel have been accessible to the driver from the driver's seat?
Yes, within arm's reach.
If you could please give an approximate dimension of this satchel.
The best way to describe it would be the size of a large iPhone, like 12. I would say that'd be the size of it, so give you a reference, maybe that big. And it was dark colored.
Your Honor, if I could publish State's Exhibit 2 at this time.
Go ahead.
I'm showing what's been previously admitted as State's Exhibit 2. Do we see the satchel here in Exhibit 2?
That's correct.
Where is it located?
On the desk next to Patrolman Mims at the time.
Is that the same satchel that you recovered from the vehicle in this case?
That's correct.
Thank you. What other items were contained inside that satchel?
Items would be the firearm that was located, and like I said, his ID, state ID.
Were there any other items inside that bag?
Not that I recall.
How many compartments were inside that bag?
I would say at least 2, from my recollection. The main compartment, like where the biggest space would be, and then I think a front pocket as well.
Once you located that satchel on scene, what did you do next?
I notified Patrolman Cole and Patrolman Mims because since he was still in training at the time, I wanted to let them process the firearm, as in make it clear and whatnot, and run the serial number and take it for evidence.
I'm going to show you what's been previously admitted as State's Exhibit 3.
Can you tell me if you recognize what is contained in State's Exhibit 3?
It would be a black Ruger pistol and a holster, and what I'm assuming is the magazine inside the sleeve of the white or yellow envelope.
Is that the same firearm that you recovered in this case?
That is correct.
Is that in substantially the same condition as when you last saw it?
That is correct.
Was there anything else you located in the vehicle that was of any significance?
Just the dog. Not significant as like evidence-wise, it's just, there.
For purposes of your inventory sheet, what you were documenting, did you document any other valuables?
Not that I recall, no.
After locating the firearm in this case, did you have any further involvement with the defendant?
No.
No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Officer Santa.
Good morning.
Your Honor, may I proceed?
Yep.
Now, as you were just telling us, you were the one that found the gun in question, is that right?
That's correct.
I want to back up and talk about how you became involved with the investigation. Now, you're not the officer who initiated the traffic stop, is that right?
That is correct.
You were called in afterwards.
That is correct.
So when you arrived on the scene, there were officers already on the scene.
That is correct.
When you arrived on the scene, Mr. Hobbs was already out of the vehicle at that point.
That's
Am I
correct.
right? So, Mr. Hobbs at some point was detained, is that right?
That's correct.
He was placed in handcuffs.
That's correct.
He was placed in one of the squad cars.
Correct.
So, it's reasonable to assume that at some point his person was searched, is that right?
That's correct.
There was no firearm found on his person.
No, not that I'm aware of.
No gun in his pockets or his clothes.
Correct.
No shell casings, no bullets.
Correct.
After Mr. Hobbs was detained in the vehicle, that's when you began to search the vehicle, is that right?
That's correct.
Now, when you first open that car door and you look inside, you don't see a gun on the floorboard, is that right?
That's correct.
Because it's not visible, isn't that right?
The firearm itself?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
It's not out in the open.
That's correct.
So the other officers that were on the scene, that were looking in that car door, there was no gun for them to see at that point, isn't that right?
That's correct.
So it wasn't until that you opened this satchel that you referred to that you found the gun.
Correct.
Now I want to talk about this idea of compartmentalizing, because you said on direct examination that it's important to look into every compartment to see what's there, isn't that right?
Correct.
And the purpose of that is because it's an inventory search, right?
Correct.
You're trying to determine what items are in the vehicle,
Correct.
what items are of value,
Correct.
so that they can be noted and protected, isn't that right?
Correct.
But at no point did you come and ask Mr. Hobbs what items he had in the vehicle.
Correct.
You didn't ask him what items he was concerned about.
Correct.
And when you opened this satchel, the only thing that you collected was the gun, isn't that right?
Correct.
We don't have this ID card that you're referencing here in court today,
Correct.
so we just have to take your word for it that it said that on there.
Correct.
You didn't inventory any of the other items in this satchel,
Correct.
but you just told us that was the purpose of the inventory search, right?
Correct.
To take note of all the items in the bag. So when Ms. Alessi asked you if you inventoried all the other items in the bag, you said, "I can't recall." Do you remember saying that?
Correct.
So you didn't perform the inventory search.
Not accurate. I didn't inventory things that are of relevance.
So you decided which objects you were going to inventory and which ones you weren't.
Correct.
Now, when an item like a firearm is collected, there's information that the firearm can give us about its use or who owns it. Isn't that right?
Sometimes.
You can look at a serial number on the firearm.
Yes.
So sitting in court today, you can't tell us if Mr. Hobbs is the one who purchased that firearm.
That is correct. I cannot.
Sitting in court here today, you can't tell us if Mr. Hobbs ever held that firearm.
That's correct.
There are ways for you to find out, right?
That's correct.
You could submit a referral for fingerprints to be taken.
That's correct.
You've done that before, right?
Correct.
But you didn't do it in this case.
It was not my case to do
It
that.
wasn't done in this case. Isn't that right?
I believe, correct.
So sitting here in court today, there's no fingerprint evidence that connects Mr. Hobbs to that gun.
That's correct.
Now, Mr. Hobbs, you didn't have any direct conversations with him that day, did you?
Correct.
You didn't interview him about the gun that you found.
Correct.
You didn't ask him where it came from.
Correct.
But he was making statements that day, wasn't he?
I believe so. I did not talk to him personally to any extent that I recall.
So at no point did you hear him ever say anything about the gun.
Correct.
No point did you ever hear him say anything about the satchel.
Correct.
He never took ownership of either one of them. Isn't that right?
Oh, correct.
Now, Officer DeSanto, you weren't there when Mr. Hobbs was originally pulled over, isn't that right?
That's correct.
You don't know who could have been driving the vehicle earlier that day.
That's correct.
You know that that vehicle wasn't registered to Mr. Hobbs,
That's correct.
so that gun could have belonged to someone else.
Possible.
No further questions, Your Honor?
Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. How many times during the course of your employment as a police officer have you located or seized firearms on traffic stops?
Dozens of times
Are you familiar with an E-trace
with the ATF.
with the ATF? Yeah.
Correct.
And what is that?
The ATF, every gun that's manufactured that is sold in the United States has to have a serial number since like the 1970s, and has to have the origin of where it was made and when the FFL transfer occurred.
What type of information is contained in that report when you run an E-trace?
If it was properly transferred, it shows you when it was purchased, by whom, their address, and their personal identification information.
Have you run E-traces during those dozens of traffic stops that you've conducted in the past to see who the owner of firearms were?
I have sometimes, yes.
And in your training and experience, is the person who purchased the firearm the same person that's found in the possession of the firearm?
Actually, never.
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
No further questions.
Any recross?
No recross, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down, thank you. Next witness?
The state would call Rebecca Silverstein. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please state your full name and spell your last name?
My name is Rebecca Silverstein Gross. Silverstein Gross, SILVERSTEIN-GROCE.
Where are you currently employed?
I am employed as the firearms and latent print technical leader with the Lake County Crime Lab.
Okay, and how long?
I've been there 11 years.
And what are your duties?
So my duties, I complete casework in the latent prints, firearms, tool mark sections, which covers obviously any case submissions that are submitted to the laboratory, in addition to my duties as casework analyst in firearms, latent prints, and tool marks. I'm responsible also for the technical operations of the firearms and latent print sections, keeping up with, keeping our policies and procedures up to date, and any technical equipment and things like that, keeping that up to date as well.
And what education or training do you have to hold your position?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in forensic biology with a minor in chemistry from Ohio Northern University. And
Have you attended any specific training in regards to firearms?
Yes. So, in order to be signed off as a firearms analyst, I participated in the ATS National Firearms Examiner Academy as part of my training, which is a year-long training academy consisting of pre-course work of writing papers, reading up on the background history of firearm and tool mark examination, completion of 17 weeks of training at the ATF laboratory in Maryland, going through different modules on-site of written and practical applications in firearms examination, operability, ammunition comparison, tool mark examination, serial number restoration, distance determination, as well as participating in moot courts, and throughout the program also participating and completing a research project, as well as mock cases and presenting that research and completing 2 moot court cases at the completion of the academy prior to graduation. In addition to that training through the ATF, I continued my training in firearms and tool mark examination at the laboratory, completing our laboratory training program, which consisted of a continuation of the things that I had learned at the academy, but also making sure that I'm keeping up with and understand our policies and procedures and how to apply them with the things that I learned at the academy. So that training program consisted of practical as well as written applications, as well as mock cases, and the completion of a written and practical competency test prior to being signed off for casework.
Do you hold any certifications?
I am certified in comprehensive criminalistics through the American Board of Criminalistics.
Is the Lake County Crime Lab accredited?
Yes, we are accredited through ANAB as a forensic testing laboratory. That is under ISO 17025, and for the specific document for forensic testing laboratory is AR 3125. Additionally, that accreditation covers not only the entire laboratory, but in all the individual disciplines. In addition to the policies and the guidelines for 17025 and 3125, our DNA section is also accredited under the FBI quality assurance standards for testing DNA testing laboratories. So, for example, in our firearms section, we are accredited in firearms examination, comparisons of ammunition components, serial number restoration, and quantitative analysis of firearm components.
What's the lab's procedure for receiving evidence?
So, when evidence is brought to the laboratory for submission, we have a laboratory submission form that the agencies are asked to complete, which include they are asked to fill in any of their case information, as well as the items that they will be submitting to the laboratory, identifying what the items are, identifying which disciplines they would like those items to go to. The evidence that is brought out to the laboratory is required to be sealed prior to submission to the laboratory. So if when the evidence is brought out to the laboratory, if the evidence custodian or whoever is at the front desk accepting the new evidence notices that it's not sealed, they'll ask that the evidence to be sealed prior to accepting it for submission to the lab. When they submit that item, a new case is generated in our laboratory information management or LIMS system. That new case is given a unique case number for our laboratory, and each individual item that is submitted in that case is given a unique item number underneath that case number. So all the information that's on the submission form is entered into the LIMS system, and that case is created. In addition to be assigned those individual case number and the item numbers, those barcodes there are barcodes that are printed out associated to each item number as well as to the case. Those barcodes are those are attached to each item as when they're submitted, with the individual who generated the barcodes initials on the barcode. Those barcodes are how we keep track of the chain of custody of the evidence when it comes into the laboratory. So the initial submission of the evidence will track, the evidence custodian will document who submitted the evidence, transfer it to themselves, and then it'll be transferred to a storage location in our evidence locker. And folders are generated for each discipline that where it was assigned in that case, for that case.
So where is evidence stored?
So evidence is stored in our secure evidence locker or in a secure location, depending if it's too large to store it in the evidence locker.
Then what do you do when you receive a firearm to analyze?
So when I receive a firearm to analyze, first thing I do is just take an initial look at the box, make sure there's no tampering on the seals, everything seems to be intact. If that's the case too, I will document, then I'll go ahead and document my initials and the date that I'm opening the item next to the barcode on the evidence box. We generally receive firearms in evidence boxes rather than in paper or anything like that. Then I open the box, observe the condition of the firearm or anything, any other evidence associated with that may be in the box. I observe that, and I also photograph that to document how the condition as it was received. Also, at that time, too, verifying that the firearm is unloaded. Laboratory policy that firearms be unloaded, barring any particular specific circumstances that may prevent them from being submitted unloaded. And then I will remove anything that's securing the firearm. So in most cases, they'll be secured in there with zip ties, so I'll remove the zip ties to be able to observe the other side of the firearm and also document both that side of the firearm as well. And then just do an initial exam of the firearm, document what was received, whether it's a firearm or a firearm in a magazine or a holster or something else, or there's ammunition included as well. I will document everything that's included with the firearm in the box.
How do you, is there a test to determine operability?
Yes. So when a firearm is submitted for operability, we do a full examination of the firearm, and any magazine or that may be submitted with it as well to verify that functions with the firearm as well. So when we do a function examination or operability examination, we'll examine the firearm, document its condition, just document the physical features of the firearm. We'll measure the overall length, the barrel length, just document those in our notes. I document the serial number, the make, the model, the manufacturer and/or importer. If the firearm was made outside the U.S., I also document an importer, the caliber of the firearm, and any other markings that I may note on the firearm. And then after I've already verified that it's been unloaded, I handle the firearm as what we call dry firing, so no ammunition. I just work the action of the firearm. I test, is it working properly? Is it functioning just without any ammunition? Does it appear to be that when the trigger's pulled, it releases the hammer or it releases the striker? And then I also examine any safety features that may be on the firearm. Are there any manual safeties? Are there any internal safeties that are just inherent to the design of the firearm? I document those. I document if they're functioning properly, if they are present. And I also, as I said, I test the magazine to make sure that it is compatible with that firearm. And sometimes, in some firearms, there are features that when the magazine is empty, it will lock the slide back. So I test to see if that does that there, as well as I confirm that further on when test firing as well. So if I examine the firearm, I document all notes for everything that I'm examining, and documenting, looking at the features of the breech face of the firearm, the firing pin, the extractor, the ejector, all the components that even ammunition may come into contact with in the firearm. Then if I determine it's operable, then I will test fire it using 3 rounds of ammunition. If there was ammunition submitted with the firearm and it's in fair condition, I will at least use 1 round of the submitted ammunition as well, and then additional rounds of our laboratory ammunition and then test fire that in our range, generally into our water tank. So we recover the bullets and the cartridge cases from the 3 test fires, and that also helps me test the cycling of the firearm to make sure that it cycles properly as well, because I'll load all 3 cartridges at the same time. So once I fire one, the next one should cycle into place. and then I verify that they're collect the test fires into and sub-itemize those as a separate item from the firearm.
When you're done with your analysis, what do you do with the evidence?
So the evidence, at the completion of analysis, I do mark the evidence in some way with our case number, the item number, and initials, whether it be marking on it or attaching a laboratory barcode to the item. Then I will place that item, place it back into the box and secure it with zip ties, seal up the evidence, and transfer that back to, in this case, if it doesn't need any additional analysis, the submitting agency. Usually by the time it gets to firearms, we're the last ones to handle a firearm if there were additional requests in the case. And then, and then I'll make sure I'll seal everything and transfer it to the submitting agency's return bin.
Did there come a time when the Lake County Crime Lab received evidence from the Willoughby Police Department regarding a Kenneth Hobbs?
Yes.
And did that evidence go through the process you described earlier?
Yes, it did.
I'm showing you what previously the marked as State Exhibit 3. Do you recognize it?
Yes. I recognize what is marked as State's Exhibit 3 is our laboratory item number 1. This is our laboratory barcode right here in the upper corner with my initials and date next to the barcode, as well as my initials on the seals here as well.
Was it properly sealed when you first received it?
Yes. If it wasn't properly sealed, I would have documented that as well and alerted my supervisor to proper documentation of that.
Can you open the box and tell us what it is?
First, I'm going to verify it is unloaded. So inside the box is the Ruger LCP firearm that was submitted, as well as this cloth holster. And then in this sealed envelope here is the magazine and the ammunition that was submitted with the firearm.
Did you test or analyze State Exhibit 3?
Yes, I did.
And how did you do that?
So as I described in the function exam, so I did an initial observation of the condition of the firearm, and then I examined the function of the firearm without any ammunition in it. So I worked the slide to determine how it functions, what type of action does it have, when the trigger is pulled, is there one action or is there two actions? So is it single action or is it double action? So I'll pull the trigger. I also test whether or not there's a potential that it could fire fully automatic. So how I do that is when I'm testing the trigger, when I initially pull the slide, I hold the trigger back and work the action, and then release the trigger. If it resets, then to me that's an indication that it's semi-automatic and not fully automatic. But again, that's also verified as well when we do our test fires, because I do cycle. I load the magazine with all 3 test cartridges to be test fired. So if it was fully automatic, they would all discharge with one trigger pull. So I'm varying the type of action, looking at the features of the firearm, varying its condition, even looking down the barrel, what type of rifling does it have, what's the condition of the barrel as I received it, and just the general overall condition of the firearm. Does it function, to me, does it appear to function without any ammunition, and does it appear to be functioning as it's designed? There are no modifications or anything like that to it. And then the magazine, is the magazine functional with this firearm? What's the capacity of that magazine? And is the ammunition that was submitted with it compatible with the firearm as well? And I'll observe the condition of the ammunition as well.
So in this case, what did you determine?
I determined that item 1, the Ruger LCP firearm, was operable.
What does operable mean?
So it is capable of expelling a projectile via the force of combustion.
Then what did you do with State Exhibit 3 when you concluded your exam?
So at the conclusion of my exam, I repackaged it, secured it with a zip tie in the box, sealed up the envelope with the magazine and ammunition, and then secured the box, sealed it, and then transferred it to the submitting agency's return bin.
Did you document your conclusions or findings?
Yes. So I documented, in addition to the notes I took throughout, I did document them and complete a report at the conclusion of my analysis.
I'm showing you what's marked as State Exhibit 4. Do you recognize it?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
State Exhibit 4 is a copy of the report I generated in this case.
Where's the original kept?
The original is kept digitally in our laboratory information management system.
And is that record kept or maintained in the regular course of business?
Yes.
And is that a fair and accurate copy of the original report?
Yes, it is.
Were the methods you used to analyze the firearm generally accepted in the scientific community?
Yes, they were. And they are.
Did you reach your opinion in this case to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
The analysis and methods that I completed are generally accepted within the forensic firearms community.
No further questions.
Cross?
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay. You talked about how in your training you did moot court and mock trial cases. What was the purpose of that?
So that in addition to the other, to our casework testing, practicing operability, learning, it's to understand and practice testimony, essentially, to have some experience with mock cases. So we were sent our own, we were sent mock cases from the ATF to write them up, complete them, write our own reports, and then we testified. So it's basically to get experience in the courtroom prior to being signed off, prior to doing your own casework.
Presumably, I believe that's because every case is different, so they wanted you to see different scenarios and how they play out?
Yes.
Okay. And that evidence submission form that you talked about that you received from the submitting agencies, you don't determine what tests are done with them. The agency that's referring it to you does, correct?
Yeah, so the agency will indicate what type of testing they would like to do. We do have discretion to add any testing or not test items depending on what the items were that were submitted and the condition of those items.
Okay, so you start with what's referred over to you, but then you have the discretion to add more if you see fit?
Yes.
Okay, in this situation, you didn't add any other tests to what was ordered originally, right?
No, I mean, the only thing I did there was no DNA request. I did swab the firearm for DNA, presumptively for DNA prior to beginning in that, my analysis, and then that was stored in the evidence locker in the freezer, just in case kind of, but there was, no DNA, I didn't add any additional, requests to this case.
Okay, so DNA was swabbed, but that swab was never tested?
Correct.
But that swab was available?
To my knowledge.
Okay, that swab was available in case they wanted to do DNA testing?
Yes.
Okay, and that was just something you determined that in case they wanted it, you were gonna set aside?
Yeah, based off my analysis of the firearm, I just, and how I received it, I just decided to go ahead just in case and swab it and retain the swab.
I have no further questions, thank you.
Any redirect?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down, thank you. Next witness?
Thank you, Your Honor. The state called Alexandra Colon. Your Honor. Good morning. Can you please state your name and spell it for the record?
Good morning, Alexandra Colon, C-O-L-O-N.
Where are you employed?
I'm employed with the Cuyahoga County Adult Probation Department.
What is your position with the Adult Probation Department?
I am a probation officer,
How long have you held that position?
10 years.
What sort of training or education did you receive that enabled you to hold that position?
Within the first 6 months of probation, we have to go through the Ohio Judicial College, and we have to do the training within the first 6 months. We have to do 24 hours of evidence-based practices training, and then within orientation training, we have to do a total of 88 hours.
Did you work anywhere prior to the Adult Probation Department?
I work within the court as a courtroom assistant.
What was your job as a courtroom assistant?
That's the job title. I worked with the judges. I was there for 3 years.
What were your duties as a courtroom assistant?
I was the judge's assistant. I will be in charge of jail time credits, helping them do expungements and any type of assistance the judges needed within the courtroom.
How long were you in this position?
3 years.
What are your duties as a probation officer?
I supervise clients under community control sanctions. I have the specialty docket, so I'm in charge of child support cases during criminal non-support. So we enforce collecting and making sure that a client is paying their child support at the court order every month.
When a defendant is sentenced to community control sanctions, how does the adult probation department come to be involved?
So a client is put on probation. They are assigned to a probation officer randomly through a computer system. As stated previously, I do criminal non-support. They come to our caseload, and then once they come to our caseload, we do something called ORAS. We do a criminal, ORAS is a risk assessment based on their supervision on the risk level. And so we determine if they're considered low risk, moderate risk, and high crime or high risk. Based on that is how we determine programming. So we're familiar with their criminal history when they come in the department, and then we help them with the programming.
Is this part of the intake process for when they come to the adult probation department?
That's correct.
What else is included in the intake process?
We do the risk assessment. We do a case plan. So when they're on probation, we make sure that if they're moderate or high risk, we put them again in programming. And then I guess it goes back also, what's the risk level? If it's a higher risk, they're going to need more. They have more needs, so we implement more programming for them.
As part of the intake process, does that include familiarizing yourself and reviewing the defendant's criminal history?
It does. So that goes back to the ORAS. When we look at the criminal, when we do an ORAS, we see their criminal history at that time. Yes.
How do you see their criminal history?
When we interview them, they talk about their prior criminal histories, and then we do what we call a CCH, a criminalized criminal history report. Based on that, we see any prior records that they have, and we go to see if they have anything on the record.
And that includes criminal conviction.
Correct.
Are you familiar with Kenneth Hobbs?
I am.
Have you met him in person before?
Yes, I have.
Approximately how many times have you met him?
Between 20 to 30 times.
When did you first meet Mr. Hobbs?
2019, he was placed under community control.
And between 2019 and present day, you've met him approximately 20 to 30 times?
That's correct.
Approximately how long was each of those meetings? Just on average?
15 minutes or less.
15?
Yes.
As part of your job duties, do you maintain files do you call them clients?
Yes,
Do you maintain files for clients?
I do.
What sort of information is contained in those files?
In those files, I have the risk assessment that I talked about previously, their case plans, any prior convictions that we have, and anything that has to be to the court's attention. So if I have to write a status report based on their compliance or non-compliance, I keep report of those in the file as well.
And in the course of your employment, do you routinely review your clients' files?
I do.
Do you have the ability to add information to those files?
Yes, I do.
Prior to coming to court today, were you able to review a file pertaining to Kenneth Hobbs?
Yes.
Are there any photographs contained in those files?
Yes, there is.
Did you review those photographs prior to coming to court?
I did.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 6. Can you tell me what is contained in State's Exhibit 6?
This is a photo from December 18, 2008, when the client was booked in the Cuyahoga County jail.
And is that photograph kept in the regular course of business by the Adult Probation Department?
This is actually photographed by the county jail.
But it's part of the file you maintain for clients?
I'm sorry, it is, yes.
Your Honor, if I could admit and publish State's Exhibit 6 at this time?
The objection is 6.
Yes, Your Honor, substantially more prejudicial. We've already identified the defendant today. There's no reason.
She hasn't identified him yet, so
The state has already identified. My apologies.
okay, it'll be overruled.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I have State's Exhibit 6 up here on the screen. Is that the same document that you have in front of you?
Yes, it is.
What sort of information is contained in this document?
This is the date he was booked in the county jail. If you see circled, it says 12/18/2008. Any aliases that he has under different names, his current address, his name, date of birth, social security, and any information regarding the client.
Is this social security number and date of birth the same social security number and date of birth for the Kenneth Hobbs that you're familiar with?
Yes, it is.
And this photograph taken on December 18th, 2008, was that in connection with Cuyahoga County case number CR 08517-063?
Yes, it is.
Who is depicted in that photograph?
Kenneth Hobbs.
Is that the same Kenneth Hobbs that you've met with in person approximately 20 to 30 times?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I'm showing the witness what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 5.
Can you please describe for us what's contained in State's Exhibit 5?
This is a copy of a journal entry when a client is sentenced and given some type of sanction by the court sentence. This is a copy of the sentencing journal entry.
In that sentencing journal entry, is there a certification contained in the bottom right-hand corner?
Yes, there is.
And that's certifying that is a true and accurate copy of that journal entry?
Correct.
Your Honor, I'd move to admit and publish State's Exhibit 5.
Any objection to 5?
Yes, Your Honor. Character evidence.
Well, isn't this a element of the offense?
We'd just like to note our objection for the
Okay,
record.
it's overruled, it's admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Looking at State's Exhibit 5 up here on the screen, is that the same document that you have in front of you?
It is.
What is the case number?
517063.
I'm sorry, the case number on the, not the barcode, the case number for the actual,
The court case number?
yes.
CR 08517-063.
And then the caption of the document, who is the named defendant?
Kenneth Hobbs.
I'm going to direct your attention to the bottom of that document, the second to last line. What is the date of birth of that defendant?
I'm sorry, where is that at?
It's in the body portion of the document, the second to last line. Line starts with sheriff order to transport defendant.
I'm sorry, 3/27/1977.
What gender does it list?
Male,
And what race?
black.
And going up to the body paragraphs of this document, what was the defendant convicted of?
He was convicted of drug possession.
Is that a felony?
It is.
Lastly, going down to the very bottom of the document, we see received for filing in the center of the page. What date was this received for filing?
January 15, 2009.
Do you see Kenneth Hobbs seated in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you please point to where he's seated and identify what he is wearing?
He's wearing a white button-up shirt towards my left-hand side.
Your Honor, if the record will reflect that he's identified the defendant.
Yes.
And is this the same Kenneth Hobbs we saw depicted in State's Exhibit 6 in front of you?
Yes, it is.
And is this the same Kenneth Hobbs that was convicted of drug possession in that Cuyahoga County case number CR 08517-063A, dated January 15th of 2009?
Yes, it is.
No further questions.
Ross?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Colon.
Good afternoon.
Now, you're not a police officer, is that right?
Correct.
You don't work for the Willoughby Police Department,
I don't.
so you weren't involved with any traffic stop of Mr. Hobbs in December of 2022.
I was not.
You have no idea what went on in that traffic stop.
That's correct.
You have no idea if a firearm was recovered that day.
Correct.
You have no idea if that firearm belonged to Mr. Hobbs.
Correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you.
No redirect, Your
All
Honor.
right, you may step down, thank you.
No one further, Your Honor.
State rests pending the admission of our exhibits.
All right, exhibits 1, 2, 5, and 6 have been admitted, correct?
3 as well.
And 3, I'm sorry.
4 is the only one we didn't admit.
All right, are you asking to admit 4?
No, Your Honor, we just want it marked for purposes of the record.
All right, the defense has objected to some of these exhibits. They have all, however, been admitted. Is there anything further from the state then?
Nothing further.
All right, from the defense?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, we would like to make a Rule 29 motion.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Defense moves for a judgment of acquittal under Criminal Rule 29. Even with the facts construed in the light most favorable to the state has not met its burden of proof on each and every element of the offenses charged. Specifically, the state has not produced sufficient evidence to show that Mr. Hobbs was in possession of the firearm that was found in the vehicle that day, or that he knew the firearm was in that vehicle. Just to review, the vehicle was not his. The officers did not question him about any other people that were driving the vehicle, about any information regarding the firearm whatsoever. There was no photos of the firearm where it was found. There was no DNA tested, no fingerprints tested, and the gun itself was not purchased in his name, and no information was sought after from the person it was purchased from, or purchased it in the first place. So we would argue the state has failed to prove knowledge and possession in this case, and the evidence is insufficient to sustain a conviction, and judgment of acquittal should be entered in this case.
All right, thank you. State?
Your Honor, in viewing the evidence in the light most favorable to the state, we'd ask that the defendant's motion for acquittal be denied. In regards to the possession of the firearm, that there was testimony, which is evidence that that firearm was located in a vehicle being driven by the defendant. The defendant was the sole occupant and driver of that vehicle. There was other personal items contained inside that vehicle, notably his dog. There was also his wallet containing his driver's license, which was found in the same bag as the satchel, and there is sufficient evidence that the defendant had knowledge and possession of that firearm, and that he was under disability at the time of the offense, so we'd ask that their motion be denied.
All right, thank you. Based on the evidence and the testimony and the applicable standard, I will overrule the defendant's Rule 29 motion. Does the defense have any evidence to present?
We have no witnesses, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Hobbs, you understand that you have the right to testify in this trial if you want?
Right.
You also
Correct.
understand you have the right to not testify if you do not want to. Do you understand that?
Correct.
And although maybe it's your counsel's suggestion, ultimately it's up to you to determine whether or not you testify. Do you understand that?
Correct.
Is it your desire not to testify in this case?
Yes.
All right. All right. All right, let's take about a 15-minute break, and then we'll come back, okay?
So at this point in the trial, you've heard all the evidence and you've seen all the facts. And with the trial about to conclude, we stand before you confident that we have met our burden. And how did we do that? So I won't insult your intelligence by reading the elements of it, but in this case, the date's not in dispute and the place is not in dispute. However, how did we determine knowingly? Well, you heard both Officer Mame and Officer DeSanto testify about how the gun was found in the same bag as defendant's wallet and driver's license. And I don't know about you, but I don't tend to keep my wallet and bags in our minds. It doesn't take a leap of faith to understand that the defendant knowingly had that firearm in his satchel. And as for possession, you heard, again, both the officers explain that that satchel was in the back seat of that vehicle and it was accessible from the driver's seat. Just reach back and grab it. You also, as far as the firearm, heard from Ms. Rebecca Silverstein-Rose about how she tested the firearm, she followed all the procedures, and the firearm was found to be operable. You also got to hear, as far as the prior conviction from Ms. Colon, she explained how she knew the defendant, how they met, how often they meet, and how this defendant, this Kenneth Hobbs, is the same one from the 2008 Cuyahoga County drug possession case. Moving to count 2, again, same date, same place, and you saw that dash cam video. It was like you had a front row seat. You saw the defendant was in a public place, Euclid Avenue in Willoughby, Ohio, broad daylight. You heard the officer ask for his name and date of birth, and the defendant repeatedly refused to give either. You heard how Officer Mame witnessed the red light violation, but this was not a typical traffic stop. The defendant was evasive and cooperative. Any reasonable person or officer would have been suspicious about what the defendant was up to at the time. You then heard the defendant tell Officer Mame his name was Jeffrey, which takes us to count 3, falsification. So one more time, you saw the dash cam footage. You heard the defendant, Kenneth Hobbs, eventually identify himself as Jeffrey, the Officer May. You heard Officer May explain the importance of identifying individuals in the course of his work. I think we all know why Kenneth Hobbs was trying to conceal his identity that day. The firearm in the backseat of his car that he wasn't allowed to have. Thank you.
Closing argument, Your Honor?
Yep.
Your Honor, Ms. Bell, may it please the court. Your Honor, when I came before you at the beginning of this trial, I told you that close enough isn't good enough. And I told you that because when the state charges a person with a crime, they can't just have you assume, in this scenario, that the gun was his, that it belonged to him, or that he knew it was there. They have to prove it to you, Your Honor. They have to prove every element of every charge beyond a reasonable doubt. And if they don't, you have to find Mr. Hobbs not guilty. Now, I want to go through the charge, specifically weapons under a disability, and talk about how the state has failed to meet their burden. Now, we're not going to dispute that Mr. Hobbs was under a disability that day, that he shouldn't have had a firearm because of a prior conviction. But that conviction, that prior conviction, doesn't mean that he's automatically guilty in this case. The state still had to prove their case. So let's talk about what evidence they gave you and how they met those charges. Now, to possess a weapon under disability, you have to knowingly acquire, have, carry, or use any firearm. It means possession. You can show that in two ways: direct possession, constructive possession. Direct possession means that it was on his person, in his pockets, in his clothes, that he had it in his hands. And, Your Honor, we know that that's not the case. Mr. Hobbs was almost certainly searched the day that he was arrested. Both officers testified today. No firearm was found in his pockets, no firearm in his shirt, none in his hands, no bullets, no shell casing. So then the state has to prove that he was constructively possessing this firearm, that it was reasonably close to him, so close that he was aware of it, that he could exert dominion or control over it. And, Your Honor, they failed to prove that today. They failed to prove that because they haven't given you any evidence that that gun was accessible. I mean, think about it for a second. Two officers saw a gun in the car that they pulled Mr. Hobbs over from. Neither officer took a photo of that gun or its location. You heard from Patrol Officer Mame here today when he was asked by Ms. Carroll, where was the firearm located? He said, I believe it was in the back seat, possibly in the rear, on the floorboard. Your Honor, I believe is not beyond a reasonable doubt certain. And the problem with that is the state had to prove today that that firearm was accessible. It's not enough that there may have been a gun at some point or some part of this vehicle, in the trunk, in a tire, somewhere in this vehicle. They had to show through indirect possession that Mr. Hobbs could exert control over it, that it was accessible to him. And they haven't. Because where was that gun found? It wasn't out in the open for anyone to see. It was in a bag. And neither officer could give you the distinct location where that bag was found. Not even a photograph indicating that. So when you ask yourself, well, could Mr. Hobbs have reached it? Well, both officers took the stand today and told you, yes, it was accessible. Well, how do you know that? Because we saw a video of this vehicle. It's a pretty large vehicle. Each officer told you a different story about how big they thought that vehicle was. Officer Mame couldn't tell you if it was 2 rows or 3 rows. So if this gun is in the back of the vehicle, Mr. Hobbs is in the driver's seat with his hands on the steering wheel, can he reach it? Do you know beyond a reasonable doubt that that gun is accessible to him? I mean, we know that he couldn't, not just from the fact that we don't know the exact location where it was found, but because it was in a backpack. It's not like he just had it ready to go on his person or right next to him or in the passenger seat or in the console. I mean, it's tucked away in a bag somewhere else. And that takes us to the knowledge part of this, Your Honor. The state had to show that Mr. Hobbs knowingly possessed this firearm. That means he had to know that it existed, that it was in that vehicle in the first place. Now, we're not asking the state to bring a mind reader to court and sense whether Mr. Hobbs knew it was there. No, they could have given you evidence that would have indicated otherwise. They could have given you statements by Mr. Hobbs. I mean, he made a lot of statements. You saw the video. Never said anything about a gun. They're telling you that he's trying to hide from this firearm, but he was telling the officers he was concerned about his vehicle being towed. He was concerned about his dog finding a home. At no point does he say anything about this bag that was found in the back seat. No point does he say anything about this gun. And think about why that is, Your Honor. They keep calling it a satchel today. A satchel. What about a purse? Why would they call it a satchel and not a purse? Is it because a satchel is something that men use, a purse is something that women use? You heard testimony today that Mr. Hobbs, he's not the registered owner of that vehicle. A woman is. And the gun is found somewhere in the back of that car in a bag that, for all we know, belonged to a woman. Is that proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Hobbs knew that gun was there? No, Your Honor. How else could they have shown it? Well, they had the gun in evidence. You heard from the firearm expert. She swabbed it. They had a swab sitting there ready. It's not like the police didn't have any evidence, the DNA evidence to look at. That's one thing. They had the evidence right there. They had the firearm. They have his prints. They have the swab that they took on the firearm. They never tested it. So if you wanted to know if Mr. Hobbs had ever held it, you could have been sure. But now you can't. And that matters, Your Honor, because if Mr. Hobbs held this gun before, he's used this gun before, well then when we tell you that he's never seen it or he has no idea what it is, it doesn't mean anything. But if there's no proof, no witnesses of him holding it, no statements of him referencing it, no prints of him touching it, then there's nothing that connects him to the gun other than the mere fact that he was found in some close proximity. But Your Honor, remember what I told you earlier today. Close enough isn't good enough. The state had a burden today to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Hobbs possessed that firearm. And there were a lot of ways that I just outlined that they could have done that. But they didn't. You don't know if that firearm was accessible to him from the driver's seat. There's no photos of it. You don't know that he's ever held it. You don't know that he's ever seen it. Now, of course, the state will have you believe, well, there was an ID card in this bag. Surely that should indicate that Mr. Hobbs for sure should have known that this gun was there. But Your Honor, think about it this way. Mr. Hobbs told the officers when they came on the scene that he didn't have an ID. Why would he have told them that if he knew that there was an ID in this bag the whole time? And you heard from both officers about the reason that they looked inside this bag. The reason was an inventory search. They were trying to inventory all the items in this vehicle to protect them, to protect items of value to Mr. Hobbs. So why didn't they ask Mr. Hobbs, is this your bag? Are these any items that you're concerned about that have any value? And follow up on that, Your Honor, because if they inventoried just the gun, but they had all the other objects in this vehicle, and neither officer could tell you what exactly those objects were, did they really conduct an inventory search? Did they actually take inventory of what was in that vehicle? They didn't. You can't be sure what was in there. We saw a photo of a bag in the booking room. Why not give it to you here today? Why not take a photo of the bag at the scene? Why not take a photo of the ID card that they supposedly found? I mean, they're telling you that this ID card is the smoking gun here. So why didn't you get to see it? Surely they would have collected it. But they never inventoried it. Your Honor, at the end of the day, we understand there's a natural inclination to assume that because he was in this car that it must be his. But there are a lot of explanations here. They can't tell you who was driving this car. You know that this car is registered to someone else because they haven't connected him physically to the weapon. They can't prove that he knowingly possessed it that day. They failed to meet their burden beyond a reasonable doubt. Because, Your Honor, close enough. It isn't good enough. So we'd ask that you find Mr. Hobbs not guilty today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Leshy?
Thank you, Your Honor. Obviously, we can't today look into the mind of Kenneth Hobbs and know what he knew back on December 14th of 2022. So we have to look at the facts and the facts and circumstances that are in evidence today. The defendant was the sole occupant and driver of that vehicle. That vehicle is registered to the defendant's mother, who doesn't even have a valid driver's license. Officer Main testified to that. His personal belongings are in his vehicle, most notably his dog, his wallet, his driver's license. And if you think about the items you leave the house with that you never leave without, what are they? your phone, your keys, your driver's license. You always know where those 3 items are. That's reason and common sense. I don't know if defense is trying to assert that there was never a driver's license in that bag, but when you watch the dash cam from Officer Main, you can hear them radio the defendant's driver's license number over the radio. We hear dispatch radio back with the personal identifying information of the defendant. The officers could not have just concocted a driver's license number out of the blue to radio to dispatch that magically comes back to the defendant. We also have the defendant's refusal to identify himself. Ask yourself, why did he refuse to identify himself? There was repeated requests to exit the vehicle, repeated requests, over 10 requests for his date of birth. He gives a false name. What motivation would the defendant have for doing that? And when the officer LaCursey is on the scene and she asks the defendant if he has a valid driver's license, which we heard he does, in fact, have a valid driver's license, what motivation would the defendant have to lie about that? Because if he said he did have it, he would have had to have gone into that satchel where that firearm was located that he knows he's not allowed to have. That satchel was located within arm's reach of the driver's seat. But it didn't have to be located within arm's reach. It didn't have to be accessible to him within the vehicle. This isn't an improper handling case. It's weapons under disability. That firearm could have been in the satchel, in the trunk, that was not accessible to him from the driver's seat, and it still would be having weapons while under disability. The definition of possession includes when a person has an object on or about his person or property, or places it where it is accessible to his use or direction, and he has the ability to direct or control its use. He had the ability to reach towards that satchel. It was within arm's reach, but again, even if he didn't, if it was in the trunk, the evidence is the same here. We heard we heard defense just argue that Officer Main believed where the firearm was found. But remember, Officer Main told us point blank, he didn't locate the firearm. Patrolman DeSanto located the firearm. And he testified, which is evidence in this case, in no uncertain terms, as to the exact location of where that firearm was located. The defendant wasn't questioned about the gun here. I'm not going to lie to you. Would have been helpful, sure. But when you look at the totality of the circumstances, everything that had happened up to the point, the defendant lied about his name, refused to provide a date of birth, and was wholly uncooperative with officers. The defendant, you hear in the back of Officer Main's cruiser, we hear him saying, "You're going to tow my car, my dog, my car, my dog, me, Kenneth Hobbs. Not my mother's, not someone else's." He was concerned about his property, where his personal belongings were, where his ID was, and where the firearm was. Defense counsel also tried to argue that there wasn't a lengthy inventory sheet in this case of every possible conceivable item contained in that car. But we heard Officer Main testify. They don't document every single item in a vehicle. They'd still be on traffic stops. They'd take 4 hours. They document items of value. The state has proved this case beyond a reasonable doubt. We'd ask that you find the defendant guilty. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I considered the evidence consisting of the testimony of Patrolman Main, Patrolman DeSanto, Rebecca Silverstein-Gross, and Alexandra Colon. I have considered the exhibits that were admitted, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, and have reviewed those exhibits. And based on the testimony and the evidence submitted in this case, I'm going to find beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Hobbs did have that weapon under disability in count 1, that he failed to disclose the personal information as properly requested by the Willoughby Police in count 2, and that he committed the act of falsification that was contained in count 3. And I found all of those counts beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm going to refer this to the Adult Probation Department for a pre-sentence report an investigation. The sentencing is going to be on August 22 at 3 p.m. and the bond will be continued in this case. The item subject to forfeiture in count 1 is forfeited to the state. Is there anything further from the state?
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Anything further from the defense?
No, Your Honor, thank you.